Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're talking all about the things you do and do not need for sourdough baking. Let's get into it. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to this channel so that you do not miss the next video. What do you actually need to have for sourdough? It's really not that much. Now, there's a lot of things that you can get that make your life a lot easier and make the process more simple, or just, hello, or just really convenient, but you do not have to have them. So I have my notes right here so I don't forget anything. Most importantly, you need your ingredients. You need your starter, you need your flour, your water, and your salt. I can do a whole other video on specific ingredients, but that's all the artisan sourdough is. It's just flour, water, salt, and the leaven. All you have to have is a bowl and your hand. I would also say that a bench scraper is very important. Obviously, you can make do without it, but they're very inexpensive and really are very helpful. A food scale. This is obviously a survival mode. You can make bread without it, but this is a total game changer if you're wanting really consistent, beautiful loaves. Highly suggest the scale, obviously. Is it like absolutely necessary? No. Does it really, really improve your bread? Yes. Say it is a need because it's one of those basic things that they're like $25, maybe less depending on where you get it. You need jars, or, I mean, you can use a bowl for your starter. It doesn't have to be in a jar. I like the jar because of you can watch it better. But a glass bowl, you want to kind of be able to see it, ideally. Some people will do opaque like cups or, like, what are they called? Shoot. I don't know. It's like a vessel. You need something to bake it in, so you need your oven. The easiest way to bake artisan sourdough is to do it in a Dutch oven or like a bread cloche, simply because then you don't have to steam your oven. But you can totally steam your oven, and you would just need like a really heavy-duty cookie sheet or like baking sheet, and then or like a pizza stone or a baking steel. And then you just need like a casserole dish situation to go underneath that you're going to fill with water so that it will steam your oven. Because, and I have the perfect example for you right here, the difference between bread that is baked with steam and without steam. These are whole wheat, 100% whole grain, so they do look a little bit different, but these are the exact same dough. And the only difference is that this one had steam and this one did not. So having a Dutch oven or a bread cloche, they trap in all the steam so you don't have to force that into your oven. It's just way less complicated. And a Dutch oven is super versatile. You can use that for so many things. It's not like a one-use product. I have 3 Dutch ovens. Keep in mind I bake a lot of bread. You do not need more than one. I have a range in price. The start is this. I think this is a 5-quart. Now, the really nice thing about this is it's actually a combo cooker, essentially. So the lid is a skillet. So you can use this for cooking, but it's also the lid for a Dutch oven. So this is just a really economical option. These are heavy, so I'm like out of breath from getting them all out of the cupboard. It is a little bit smaller than I prefer my Dutch ovens to be. So you might just want to use a smaller amount of dough in this, but it's a great option. This is Lodge. I will try to link it. Then you have this enameled Lodge Dutch oven. This is a 6-quart. This is great. The enamel does chip, so that can be kind of frustrating. But I do like it. It works very well. The seal isn't quite as good as on the next one that I'm going to show you, but the price is significantly lower. So this is a completely valid option. They have a lot of colors now. They used to only have a couple. Now this next one, I'm very much exposing myself on this one because it needs a good cleaning. Whoa! Okay, so this is my favorite Dutch oven. My husband gifted it to me. I would probably never have been able to fork out the money for this myself. This is a stove or stove. It's very dirty. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have gotten white just because it is harder to keep it clean. It's black on the inside and it has these bumps. Now, a lot of companies are starting to do this, but for a long time, Staub was the only company that did this. So this helps with condensation. This is perfect for like cooking soups and stuff because it keeps it like, I don't know, it just controls the condensation. This is a 7-quart, so it's really big, but I do not have a single chip. It has held up so well, and I really love this one. It does clean better. Like, the stuff will come off the enamel. So I'll go months and months without cleaning the outside of it. Because it just takes a little bit more time. And then I'll clean it, or my husband will clean it. He's better at it. This is an awesome option, but it's definitely on the pricier side. Now, another option is a bread cloche. So this is what the top looks like. This is a stoneware one. You can get them enameled. This was just super inexpensive. I think it was $35 when normally they're about $100, depending on the brand. So this is stoneware. Now, it did have a little pan base, but that actually broke. What I use now is just this pizza stone. Oh, honey. So I'll preheat this in the oven with this on top of it. And then I'll just put the bread on straight onto the pizza stone, and I'll just put the lid on, and that traps the steam in just the same as a Dutch oven. I've seen people use just a stainless steel stock pot. The only thing is that you have to make sure that it is heat rated to about 500 degrees, because that's the temperature you're going to be baking with. And a lot of baking stuff is only rated for 450. If you have a solid lid and a base, you're good. It'll trap in the steam, and then you'll get a beautiful loaf rather than a really dull and not pretty loaf. Now let's talk about bowls. In the sense of functionality, you can use any bowl that you have. There's nothing you can't use. You can use plastic, you can use metal, you can use glass, you can use stoneware. Whatever you have will work. There's a myth that metal can impact the growth of your starter and your bread, but as long as it's not silver, you're good to go. Stainless steel, which is what most of our kitchen utensils and stuff are made out of, are fine. So I'm going to show you, though, my favorite bowls and what I like about them so that you can find a bowl that you love. And the thing to keep in mind is the weight of your bowl. Because we're doing special gluten strengthening techniques, you're going to be lifting your dough up, and the dough is sticky, so it will get stuck to your bowl. Now, if your bowl is super light, your bowl's just going to lift up with the dough, and that can just get really frustrating. So I do prefer heavy bowls. Now, do you have to have it? No. But it's nice, and they're very pretty. I have this bowl, and I also really love the size of this bowl. This one's not quite as heavy. I can't make out the marking on the bottom of it, so I'm not sure, but it's just stoneware. But it's really nice because I can get my hands in without it going much deeper than my wrists, and I have small hands, so it's more of a shallow bowl, but I can do 2 loaves of dough in this bowl easy with lots of room. Bowl I searched high and low for, and I got a steal. This is the grip stand mixing bowl. You guys can see that. The thing that I love so much about this one, so it has this flat spot on the side of it, and it'll just sit just like that. We're going to get into some jars. Now, like I've said before, you don't need anything special for this. You can use a cup, you can use a bowl. Whatever you have is totally fine. Like me, and you're doing it all the time, you might want things that make it a little easier, but ideally you want a wide mouth jar. So this is just the ball mason jar. And then this is a Weck jar. I think these are from the UK. But they're completely glass. Lid is glass. They come with this little gasket seal and then these clips. So these are actual canning jars, but they're completely wide mouthed, and they have just the most beautiful shape that makes it so easy to see and to pour. I was so resistant to getting one because they're kind of all the rage in the sourdough world, and I was so resistant because they're not cheap jars. But once I tried them, I was like, okay, fine. Now I'm an addict and I love them, and I never use my other ones. But these are totally still fine and will totally work. I mean, I even used an old pickle jar for a while. You can use whatever you have. It doesn't matter. Hot topic in the dough world, dough hooks. Now, do you absolutely have to have these? No, you do not. Is it maybe one of the most used things in my kitchen? Yes, it is. So I have 2. This is an Amazon one. Full disclosure, I have broken 6 of these. I am not a super strong person. In fact, I like to think I'm pretty weak. I don't like to. I do. I am very weak. I'm not a strong person. I am all of hot topic in the dough world, dough hooks. Now, do you absolutely have to have these? No, you do not. Is it maybe one of the most used things in my kitchen? Yes, it is. So I have 2. This is an Amazon one. Full disclosure, I have broken 6 of these. I'm not a strong person. And I have broken 6 of these, and I'm not doing anything crazy. The most I ever mix is 2 loaves worth of dough, and it's all high hydration. So having broken this is pretty impressive. They're not made that well. but you can get this on Amazon for like $4. Now on the reverse, I have one from a small company called Barlow & Co. Woodwork. And this thing is a tank. My husband has used this. It's not even wiggly, like there's no movement in it. Dough hooks are amazing because they mix your dough very effectively without over mixing things. So you could do things like brownies really quick without ever over mixing them and activating that gluten too much. I don't usually use a stand mixer for any of my artisan sourdough because this is so much faster, easier to clean. I love this. I also love that it's a little bit bigger, and the design of the handle is easier to hold. I will link it below. I do have a discount code. It's beautiful and I highly suggest it. It is a little bit more expensive, but it is cheaper than the 8 of these that I have gone through. I'm going to show you the actual #1 most used thing in my kitchen. This. On Instagram and YouTube, all the platforms, you will see people using wooden like stick things to stir their starters. And while those are very pretty, they are a nightmare to clean. They don't clean the sides of your jar very well, and they're just not that effective. I'm sorry to everybody who loves those, but I hate them. But this, I think it's $8 on Amazon, so it's kind of firm. It's like a little embarrassing how much I love this thing, how much I nerd out over this jar spatula. And it allows me to keep my jars very, very clean. It's the best shape. I have tested all of them. I have one of these that everybody raves about. No, because it does not clean the sides of the jar. I'm very embarrassed at how much I can talk about one jar spatula. I should stop. I need to get a life. Now we need to talk about Banneton. This is kind of controversial. And a lot of people will say that you don't need a Banneton. Now, could you in a pinch get away without one? Yes. Do Bannetons improve your bread? Yes. Because they are kind of moisture wicking, but they're also not 100% airtight. They allow your bread to kind of breathe and it doesn't get soupy like it would in a bowl. And you're not using your bowls while your dough is proofing. So like you have access to use your bowls for other things while your dough is sitting in the fridge for a whole day. They can be kind of expensive. There's a lot of options. There's like wood pulp ones, although those are actually fairly expensive. Amazon is the most reliable source that I found for them. For ovals, I think this is a 9 or 10 inch. They're all pretty standard for ovals. I think you can find mini ones or you can find long ones, but this is my favorite size. To get into the world of round Bannetons, there's a lot of variation. Most of the time, if you buy just like a generic sourdough kit, you are going to get a 10-inch Banneton in that kit. This is the first Banneton that I ever purchased. Don't use it very often because it's so big. So you really would need a very large amount of dough to properly fill this Banneton. When people dump their dough out of their Banneton and it kind of flattens out a little bit, why doesn't it puff up really, really big? There's a lot of nuance to that topic, but I'd say probably 50% of the time, it's actually simply because you're using a Banneton that's too big. If you use a smaller Banneton, this is a 7-inch Banneton, you know the difference, your dough will be much taller. So your loaf will puff up better. This is an 8-inch. This is also a fantastic size. I always tell people you want either a 7 or an 8-inch, whichever you can get your hands on. They're a little bit harder to find. Well worth it. And either one is honestly fine. And the liners, you can either buy them separately or a lot of Bannetons will come with them. I do prefer the liners. I know a lot of people will also use hairnets to cover their Banneton so that it just doesn't stick as much. I cover my liners and my Bannetons in brown rice flour. So that moves on to the next thing that we need, which is brown rice flour. If you're using commercial all-purpose flour to dust your liner, as soon as it gets wet, and you're using high hydration sourdough, so it's wet, as soon as the dusting flour gets wet, it's going to get sticky, and it's going to make your dough stick to your Banneton more. Brown rice flour is gluten-free, so it does not do that. You can even like get it off your loaf for the most part right before you bake it, which is really, really nice, because who likes to bite into a piece of bread and like you exhale a little bit and the flour puffs out? Nobody likes that. It's not a have to have, but a really nice thing to have is bowl scrapers. So this is flexible, so I can kind of mold it to my bowl. And this just helps me keep my bowl cleaner. So if you're looking at, say, one of my Instagram posts, and you're seeing that my bowl is really clean when I'm handling my dough, it's because I'm using this. This is a shower cap. It is disposable. I reuse it multiple times for my dough. I will put it over my bowl to cover the dough while I'm handling it, and then I put it over the dough in the Banneton. For now, this is just a really easy, simple option that works very, very well. Now, I would add to the first section of the things that you need to have is a razor blade. Now, you don't have to have the special long handle, but a razor is key to getting a pretty score and to getting a clean score. If you use a knife, you're just going to deflate your dough because it's just not fine enough. It doesn't have the thin blade to get a clean cut. This one is beautiful. This is also from Barlow & Co. where I got the dough hook. I love the design of this. It's very sturdy. I have a bunch from Wiremonkey. These are beautiful and I love the design of these. The small handle gives you a lot of control while also it's stable. You don't have to have the handles. You could just use the blade, which is essentially this, but it is safer. In my little scoring basket, I keep a piece of string for marking lines on my loaves. I keep some extra blades, and then I keep a toothpick for drawing designs in like my flour. You can use a baking stone or a baking steel to put under. So if you put your Dutch oven on like the top rack of your oven, then you have a rack below it, and you can put a baking steel or a pizza stone underneath that to absorb some of the heat so the bottom of your loaf doesn't get burnt. So it'll look like this instead of looking black. Final thing, and this is just an extra thing. You do not have to have this, but this is an instant read thermometer, and you can use this to temp your doughs. You can use it to temp your bread to make sure that it's baked all the way. I don't temp my dough very often. But I do love this for like my sandwich loaf recipe, rolls, when I'm testing recipes, just so that I can like get an idea of how long it needs to bake. I love this for those. I don't use it a ton for my artisan loaves, but it's a very handy thing to have. Oh, I did forget one thing. It's like a luxury car, right? Like you have all the extra things that no, you don't need them to drive, but they do make your trip a lot more comfortable. I talked about it in my sandwich loaf video. This Bakehouse Essentials dough mat. It works to maintain the temperature of your dough or your starter. I think this is the biggest size, so it's basically the size of a cookie sheet. And it can go in temperature. You can control the temperature from like 62 or 65 all the way to 120. Don't go up that high for your sourdough. Stick like under 90 and you're good. But you can use it to warm your starter or your dough to speed up the process, or even just to keep it even. And so I'll put my starter and my dough on this overnight so that it will maintain that even temperature. And that is everything. If you have any questions, comment below and I'll try to answer them. And then I will link as much as I can in the description. Have a wonderful day and happy baking.